What up, guys? It's Chris. Today I wanted to talk about GrandMA3 on PC running on Windows or Mac OS. So real quick to start this off, let's go over to ACT and kind of see what the requirements are for GrandMA on PC. So we can see here the system requirements for the MA3 on PC. Kind of gives you some specs on, which operating system you might use, the processors, RAM, kind of all that stuff. So real quick, the operating system, Windows 10, Windows 11, or Mac OS High Sierra. I can absolutely say that this is true. I was using a GrandMA2 on PC the other day with a Cybernet PC running Windows 7, and I could not install GrandMA3. So for the processor, it just kind of wants 6th generation or better Intel Core CPU with 4 or more cores. My laptop, I believe, has 6 in it, so that shouldn't be a problem. The Apple M1 with SoC CPU, I have no idea what that means, with 8 or more cores. Holy shit. That's a lot of cores for a Macintosh. RAM shouldn't be a problem. It's just kind of a minimum spec of 8 gigs, 16 recommended. Everybody should have more than 32 gigs available of hard drive space, so I'm not even going to go over that, and everybody should have an SSD at this point. It's 2023. The graphics card option, I think, is kind of interesting. Any graphics card with hardware acceleration. So to me, that kind of reads as something with like onboard graphics on the CPU isn't really going to cut it. So my Mac Mini will kind of be shit out of luck there. And it says 4,096 megabytes of VRAM. I don't think cards even have that little VRAM anymore. I could be wrong. I'm not the most computer guy in the world, but I know that my 2080 Ti, I think, has like 12 or 8 or something like that, and then my 3070 in my laptop has some too. So anyways, we can see kind of at the bottom here, the general hint is just more cores, more cache memory, more cores, more RAM, more GPU. That'll make everything better kind of in GrandMA on 3 PC. And we can also see kind of on the left-hand side here, there is a few more tips for to optimize GrandMA3 on a Mac. I would imagine there's some other useful information in here as well. And what we're going to be doing is setting up my GrandMA3 command wing, running on a Mac Mini and running on my Razer Blade laptop with a Dell 24-inch monitor as our touchscreen, and we're going to kind of go through the user experience, if you will. Before we dive into the studio in the other room and what computers I'm using, I just kind of wanted to talk about the 3 types of computers that people might be using to run GrandMA on PC. So the first one I'm going to talk about is an all-in-one PC. If we take a look at the GrandMA2 on PC specs from way back when, one of the recommended computers was this all-in-one Cybernet. I believe these are mostly made for like medical offices and things like that, but this was a really great touchscreen that was just a little chonkus in the back, and that's where the motherboard and everything like that was, and this ran MA2 on PC very well. I still use one of these to this day. But now that GrandMA3 can be run on a Mac and all these newer PCs, the options are kind of endless. We can run it on something like an iMac. We could get, one of the new kind of Lenovo touchscreen all-in-one PCs. Again, it's just kind of whatever you want to do, however you want to case it up, what works best for you. Maybe one giant screen is better than carrying around 2 screens. The second option for computers running MA on PC is laptops. Laptops are pretty self-explanatory. They could be MacBooks. I have a Razer. there's a million different flavors of laptops. Just make sure your specs are spec'd out for it. And the last option of PC is something called a NUC. I'm not exactly sure what NUC stands for. I'm sure I could have looked it up, but it's just a very small computer. We can see a little Lego dude here for scale. These can range from, very, very small to a little big. This is kind of one of the newer Intel NUC Extremes. I think this has a full-blown graphics card in it. Still very small in the grand scheme of things, but just a little bit bigger than our friend over here. This particular NUC, this Hades Canyon one, is kind of more of a flat style, and this has been a very popular NUC in the GrandMA3 kind of on PC ecosystem. These are not made anymore, so the only way to get this particular kind is on something like eBay or something like that, just so everybody has that in mind. But so with these three kind of PCs laid out, let's go take a look in the other room. So here we are back in the studio, and you can see that we have our GrandMA3 and our touchscreen, our Dell touchscreen, all running off of our Mac Mini here. We have a few adapters just to get all of our mouse and keyboards and USBs and everything into the Mac. But unfortunately, right off the bat, the touchscreen is not supported for Mac. So my user experience is going to be pretty awful right off the bat because my touchscreen is not supported. So if you are planning on running MA3 on a Mac, just look at a list of the supported touchscreen monitors for Mac OS. So unfortunately, after doing a little more research, I have come to this Dell thread here, and it says that there are no drivers or support for the particular monitor that I have. We can take a quick look down here, and you can see the exact drivers that are supported, and Mac OS is unfortunately not on the list. The control for this experiment is going to be this Elation ZCL bar. We're not going to do anything too crazy with it. We're just going to kind of see how our user experience programming a little chase or a little effect or maybe a Q stack or just something. So before we get too deep into MA3 on this Mac, I just wanted to show you guys the specs of it. It is a 2020 M1 Mini with 8 gigs of RAM, which isn't the most, but it's not the least. And in our storage, you can see that we have definitely the 32 gigabytes available. And this Mac does not have a graphics card, only onboard graphics. All right, so here we are in front of MA on PC, MA3 on PC. And we're just going to make this light do a little something really quick. So if we grab one at, you can see our intensity. Unfortunately, I don't have the touchscreen, so we just kind of have to click around. Let's see how fast I can build a phaser. Well, actually, we have some of them in here kind of already, so maybe I don't need to build one super quick. But if we do something like red and blue, and I grab 1 point, which grabs all of our instances, and then, oh, it's on touchscreen, fuck me. And I come over here, hit 360. Hopefully you guys can kind of see that. Hopefully it's not blowing it out too much. Probably is. Anyways, once we have this, we can kind of go down to our all pool. Because we don't have a touch screen, I'm just going to use the mouse to do a long press. This is going to store our effect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to long press and swipe up. This is just kind of our swipe gesture on the console. But again, because I don't have the touchscreen here, I'm just using the mouse. And I'm going to label this red, blue, all pixels. If I clear this out. Double tap it. You can see because we stored it in an all group, it has the effect, the position, and the dimmer intensity in it as well. So the user experience on this was okay. I've used the Mac for... The user experience on this was pretty good. I've used the Mac for a lot of things show related, never GrandMA stuff because MA3 is new to being available on Mac. But I do enjoy the small form factor of the Mac Mini. I think that would rack up pretty well. The ports on the back are a little limited, but depending on what you need to do, this could work out pretty well. If I had a touchscreen that was supported, I think my user experience would be greatly improved. So there are some pros and cons to this. You know, again, my touchscreen not working kind of sucks. Kind of doesn't allow me to use my Mac or the touchscreen, and both of these are pretty large investments, so I don't want to stray away from one per se. So yeah, that's kind of the user experience on the Mac. It was pretty good. Again, if I had a better touchscreen or a supported touchscreen, I think it would make the experience a whole lot better. I also just wanted to take a moment to show you guys the specs of the Razer Blade laptop that we are running. So here we are in front of the Windows setup for a GrandMA3 on PC. A little bit different. This touchscreen actually is supported and does work, so that's awesome. We do have a laptop, so the keyboard and mouse is kind of all integrated into one. We don't need to be kind of dongle city like we were over there. The touchscreen and the USB for the wing all plugs directly into the laptop as well, so that's pretty cool. But this definitely is not as rackable as the Mac Mini per se. And one of my plans, I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but I do have a Pelican case for this, and I'd like to build a small rack that will replace this here. So the idea that the Mac Mini is more rackable, you know, is kind of more desirable in that sense, but hey, we have a perfectly good Windows laptop that can run it for now, so it is what it is. So again, I'm just going to go to my kind of phaser window, scroll down here. We're going to grab a little, maybe blue and sea green. That's kind of weird. We'll do cyan and magenta. This is very quick. I will say I have been practicing a lot. But again, we can see kind of our effect running there. Just scroll all the way down. Long press will store it. Swipe up, we can label it. Cyan, mag, all pixels. Clear it all out. Double tap our all preset, and we can see it's doing exactly what we want it to do. This particular on PC setup works better for me. I do like having the two screens. If I was to use the Mac Mini, I would absolutely try to have another screen somewhere kind of in the mix. I do think GrandMA is very important to have at least two screens, unless you're doing a really baby gig. In terms of the Windows versus Mac difference, it really comes down to personal preference. I'm more comfortable navigating, changing IP addresses on a Windows machine, kind of looking through the folder settings, all that stuff. I'm more comfortable on a Windows. You might be more comfortable on a Mac. To me, there really doesn't seem to be the biggest difference. In terms of, you know, Windows versus Mac, I think it is very personal preference in that sense. The hardware, to me, is where it gets a little bit limited. As rackable as the Mac Mini was, and as good as that was, it doesn't have a graphics card, so, you know, it might lag a little bit depending on what you plan to use it for, but again, depending on what you plan to use it for, that might be all you need in it. I'm going to throw up a quick kind of layout of how I'm going to make my MA on PC kind of sidecar rack, and I'll show you where my 2-space PC will go as opposed to the 1-space Mac Mini. So I hope that was helpful. I know the answer was kind of vague. Really does come down to personal preference. Again, I'm more of a Windows guy, so I'm going to stick with Windows, kind of build that out and see what happens. So I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you have any questions about MA3 on Mac or PC, just give me a shout.